Hi, and welcome to this installment of Frank and Mary here on Nantucket. And actually, we're here in a very special place on Nantucket. We're not at NCTV. We're not on Zoom. We're actually in the community room at the public safety building. I wondered what it would feel like to sit in one of these chairs, you know, where all the selectmen and all the big people are. So I'm very excited to be here. If you haven't seen the show before, my name is Art Bergeron. My day job is as an elder law attorney, but this, of course, is not about my day job. This is about my friends Frank and Mary, who many of you have seen me or heard me and seen me talk about when I'm at the salt marsh. Frank and Mary's goal in life is to live in their house until they die and be buried in the backyard. And if you're on Nantucket and you want to do that, and you identify with that, then that's the purpose of this show. The purpose is narrowly to get you introduced to the people and programs that you need to know about in order to just stay in your home forever. But the other purpose that Alison, really at her suggestion, we expanded that to make it really also include any of the things that you as a senior really kind of, the people that you should kind of know about what's going on in the community. So over the last few years, we've been inviting the seniors of the year. So Alison has a special guest whom I actually know, but Alison's going to introduce our special guest, and we're going to talk to him about being Senior of the Year and his backstory on and off island. Alison, whom do we have today?
Well, thank you very much, Arthur. Today we have the Senior Man of the Year, Mr. William Grieder. We just call him Bill. And we're sorry to say that the female Woman of the Year is not able to make it today. So hopefully we'll get a chance to interview or speak with Barbara Kodalak at some point down the line. But she and Bill were honored at the luncheon held in their honor last month at Fairgrounds. So we did get to congratulate her and give her her medal, etc. But Bill, thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Senior of the Year.
Thank you for having me.
So, and by the way, this is the point where I always have to do my one question, which is, so how did you end up here? How did you end up on Martha's Vineyard? Because I know that your wife looks more like she's been here forever.
Actually, it wasn't Martha's Vineyard. I know you're doing that just to zap me.
Well, I was just to check on you.
Yeah, I have relatives on the vineyard, but we don't talk about that.
We never talk about it. We never even bring up that word.
I was born here, raised here. I could say I grew up here, but some people say I never grew up. So I achieved the chronological statute of living, growing up here.
You got tall here.
Yes, that's it.
You went from
I ate my vegetables.
Short to,
yeah.
Right.
And my folks, my mother was a native here, and she hadn't lived anyplace else. My father came from Maine. My grandfather on my mother's side was born on Tuckanuck, which is the little island towards that other island, the Vineyard. Right. And so, I have a history of the family living here. I think when the Pilgrims landed, one of us was here to catch the anchor, and so it's been quite a while.
And you were off for quite a while, though, too, right? You had like a day job back on the mainland.
Right. I started with the phone company here after college. I excelled in. They didn't offer a degree in it, but I excelled in the party life. And after a couple of years, the college suggested that I transfer to home, so I did. And I came back and ended up working for the phone company. And I took the place of a fellow that had 20 years here in the phone company, and he announced he was retiring, and the people that lived here said, "What the heck is he retiring for? What's he doing? That's a decent job and good bennies." And the story was, "Well, I'm going to open a sandwich shop," and they said, "That guy's crazy." Well, the guy was Henry Fee, and that became Henry's Sub Shop, and then now you got Little Henry's, and his son's got Something Natural, and so it was a great decision for him and his family, and I was always thankful that he chose to do that because I get in as a phone company. And then after a couple of years, I decided I wanted to transfer to a different department. radio, TV, and data, and that was not possible here, so I transferred to the mainland.
Is that where you met your lovely wife?
Actually, I met my lovely wife, Kathy, with a K, down here. She was one of those Don Summer girls. Her grandparents owned Amy's Bakery, and that was where the Portuguese bread was very famous, and they had potato salad, a little deli and stuff. And so she was down here. She lived in New Bedford, and she was down here working. So I met her when she was 16, and caught her in a weak moment. She said yes. We got married, and so 53 years later, she's still putting up with me. So
Wow. And so you're really involved with all of the bread dynasties here on Nantucket.
yeah.
You're a lucky man.
So yeah.
So do you know why you were nominated to be Senior of the Year?
I was shocked, baffled, and embarrassed, quite frankly, because I didn't expect it. When I look at the wall at the salt marsh of past recipients, number one, you know them all because they've been here a while, and so it's never something that I thought would ever happen, and I was very, I'd say, honored to be selected. It's volunteering to me is a way of life. It's something that I have done from an early age, and I just figure that you can either be part of a solution or part of a problem, and it's much more enjoyable to be part of a solution. And because I did marry the correct person, she's allowed me to become involved in a bunch of stuff, and she's had to pick up some slack because of that, because I haven't been around at times. But I find it very fulfilling, and I'm constantly trying to encourage people to get involved. You don't have to be in the limelight. Actually, I prefer not to be, but you can be in the background.
And so you just arrived here today from?
I'm working part-time driving the shuttle to the Shipwreck Museum, a little-known gem. They have this free shuttle now because it is out of town. It's a great take. It's part of Nantucket's history that was really not addressed in the early years. It was always about whaling and lightship baskets and all of that stuff. So fortunately, Bob Caldwell was the one that started the process, and Bud Egan and his family picked up the gauntlet, if you will, got involved in it. This building was built out in Pulpus. It's just chock full of history and artifacts and stuff that people they only see in the movies, and if they're a history buff, they read about it. But it's really a great take, and you don't have to spend the whole day there, or you could spend 2 days there. You go at your own pace.
But you need a ride to get out there. You're not gonna bump into that, and you just walked off the boat and you're checking
surprisingly,
out downtown.
the past couple of weeks, some of my passengers have actually taken the boat over from Hyannis, and the first stop was they headed to the Information Bureau to jump on the bus. So they obviously did their homework before they got here.
Right.
But it's not something you bump into unless you happen to hear about it from somebody or read one of the brochures.
And so what are some of the other things that you do as a volunteer? What's your favorite? Well, I guess you can't pick a favorite.
No, because I'd get drummed off
Right.
the others.
That's all
But,
the other books.
but I'm involved with Union Lodge, a Masonic Lodge down here. It's a great institution. Actually, it was down here. It was started in 1771, and we missed it because of COVID. But we're going to be having a birthday celebration. It's 250th,
Wow,
but
that's
it's
right.
actually going to be 251. And we're in the planning process, so it'll actually be a throwback to the old days, and there'll be a little parade up Main Street, and probably, hopefully, the restaurant that we're looking to have a collation at will be downtown, because Lord knows we don't want to walk to Sconset. So anyhow, I'm very pleased to be part of that organization. They're very quiet about the good that they do. One of the unknown things, unless you're in real need, is hospital equipment, hospital beds. Somebody contacts us, and we have a bevy of all kinds of equipment and beds and stuff, and it gets installed in the home, and when that person no longer needs it, it's taken away. So
And that's free.
free.
Yep, I've actually utilized that service when you don't know that you need a hospital bed.
Yeah. All of a sudden, Mary or Frank might need a hospital
Right.
bed, and so it's really a great organization. And then quietly, we donate to different charities and nonprofits and stuff. And very rarely do you see the donation attributed to us, because we try to just stay under the radar.
And so do they do the hospital bed program at other Masonic lodges?
Some do. Some have their own thing, and they try to get their own little niche of whatever is there. And this is one particular thing that's really grown. People make donations. There was a donation a couple of years ago of a electric wheelchair. Part of the problem with that is what to do with it when it's not being used,
Right.
and trying to keep it so that it's workable and stuff. But yeah, that's there's, on the mainland there's the Shriners Hospital and all that. That's all part of the lodge program. So.
And so when you deliver roses, what is that? What is that?
So we do at Christmas time. We do poinsettias and a little gift certificate to widows and shut-ins that are members of the lodge or family of. And then we do something at Easter, Easter lilies and stuff. And so the recipients are always really thrilled, number one, to get that, but they're even more thrilled when somebody pops in and sits and chats for a bit. Some of the people, as they get long in the tooth, they don't have any relatives anymore. They just, it's them. And so whether you know them or not, all of a sudden you have a new best friend. So it's very satisfying.
And I bet you're a really good best friend, keeping them on their toes.
Yeah, well, it's nice to be able to toss something out there that is less than true, and they pick up on it and challenge you. So.
And you probably know history of people that you can bring up if they've been around for a while. It must be fun to.
It is, especially if they are from here, and you can reminisce about some of the people or happenings when they were more mobile or living at home. When you think about it, for the most part, who doesn't like to talk about fond memories of their past? And oftentimes, you can bring something up and they'll go, "Oh, I forget all about that." One of the issues that I have, and actually people that I grew up with here, we never knew street names, never bothered with them. And that's a problem, especially now. But we always referred to a location or a street as, that's where Harry Smith used to live, because Harry Smith had crossed the bar. And but everybody knew who Harry Smith was. And so you go, you take a left at Harry Smith's house.
That's great.
So my oldest son that lives on island, and as a matter of fact, our youngest that lives in California, they both say, you got to stop giving directions that way. But I just don't know the name of a lot of the streets, so they're stuck with it.
They're stuck with
And
it.
you're too old to learn the names of the streets. You're still going to remember Harry Smith, but you're
Oh,
too
yeah,
old to learn
it's-
the names
yeah.
of the names of the streets.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it's,
And so you're quite active at the Saltmarsh Center as well. I mean, now, since we have you here at the table, would you mind giving us a little update on what's happening at the Saltmarsh, to your knowledge?
And we're not going to ask you, because you told us we couldn't, about how NCEA is related to the salt marsh and the rest of the world, because we all agree no one knows.
right, it's such.
It's just no
Nantucket
one knows.
is a.
It's like Harry's. It's
That's
like Harry.
right.
He's dead, so no one exactly knows
That's
what
right,
the
exactly.
how that happened.
So it's difficult
great.
to explain. They
And you don't have to, I mean, we aren't going to hold
We're
you.
not
to
Oh
gonna
yeah,
go
it.
that's good. Well, I'm not even going to.
You're not even going to go
I'm
there.
not even going to
Just-
attempt it.
that past is
They are
past.
they
So
are
we're
they are
gonna talk
working
about
feverishly
where you're going.
to get that information in a presentable form so that folks know what's what. They're making real strides in doing so and bringing the salt marsh up to current speed of the world. And it's no different, really. I know Frank and Mary have talked about the island home, and it's the same situation as there. Two institutions that provide services to the island. A lot of people don't know anything about them until they need the services or they want to go to those places. And so both are struggling with trying to get their name out there, what they do as a service. The salt marsh it's really a convoluted problem because it's a building that the seniors own, but it's on town property, and so that's like your house is on Harry Smith's property, and
But it's not Harry Smith's house.
no. So
And so NCEA, the Nantucket Center for Elder Affairs, right?
Yeah.
I should know that.
Ooh.
Is
well, I
didn't
gotta,
know that. That's
I got
good.
to interrupt you guys because you both do so much for both of those, the island home and the salt marsh, and you're not going to toot your own horn, but I will because I'm here
Well,
one
thank
time.
God someone does. Isn't this great?
So
oh, someone's tooting our horn.
it's just really it's a real shot in the arm for both of those institutions that folks like you have taken such an active role in it. They're better for it. I'm sure at times you go, what the heck was I doing when I signed up for this? But it's such both of them are such a worthwhile thing that you just can't help yourself as
Right.
giving people. So the salt marsh, actually at the annual meeting yesterday, they talked about first off there's over, I think it's I should know this, but I think it's like 30% of the island are seniors, and that's a staggering number when you think about it. At this point, of that 30%, a lot of them don't even know about the salt marsh. And
Right.
so part of their mission is to get the word out there so that more and more people take advantage of it. The downside of that is as more and more people take advantage of it, the more and more the room bulges because it's a small location. But they do all kinds of activities.
And so if people don't know, the Salt Marsh is the senior center on Nantucket.
Yeah.
And the NCEA, the Nantucket Center for Elder Affairs, is the fundraising arm because the municipal budget supports a portion of the operating expenses and the staff for the senior center. But the NCEA, which is also Friends of the Salt Marsh Center, is that?
Something like that.
Yeah, because there's a website and everything
Yeah.
that's been developed with
Oh
the
yeah,
new name, Friends of
and,
the Salt
and as
Marsh.
they start to do the website and there's been some volunteer work there. Like anything else, at some point you have to spend money to get stuff done because volunteerism goes to a certain point, and then you got to bring in professionals. And the reason they're professionals is because they do it for a living, and they need to make a living, and so you may get a reduced rate or whatever, but you need to pay the piper. And
that's NCEA's job. They fundraise, have an annual appeal, yard sales. They try to bring in money to spend on the Saltmarsh Senior Center and programming.
Yeah, and they're getting more aggressive about it, which is good. They're moving away from. They've come to the realization that you're not going to do it on just bake sales. Bake sales are nice. You get to meet some nice people. The cookies are great, but well, we only have to sell 2 cookies to make our goal. But the thing is, they're going to have to be $20,000 a piece. So, so bake sales are only good to a certain point, and they're always open to donations and somebody of means to adopt them, and that goes for the Island Home. It actually goes for any nonprofit down here. There is so many organizations on this island that are set up to try to help people. But when you think of the population that we have, I mean, growing up there was 3,500, and now it's 17 to 20,000. My senior class had about 28 in it, and next year's senior class, my grandson is. I'm not that old to have a grandson graduating, but my wife is. And there's going to be like 150 in his class. I mean, that's as much as we had in the whole school. Right. So.
And then they have their parents and their grandparents, so it shows how the population has exploded because everyone has a mom, and hopefully.
At one point, everybody did.
Mm-hmm.
And so, it's one of the things that I find interesting driving the shuttle is yakking with folks on the way out to Pulpus and back and finding out where they came from and how they found out about Nantucket. And it's, a lot of them are bringing youngsters with them, or grandma and grandpa bringing them down. They've always been coming here. And, before I died, I wanted to bring my kids here. And so, and that opens up visitors for the future because they want to come back. And
everyone wants to come back, pretty much.
Well, they got that thing where they're throwing the pennies overboard round in Brand Point. I was telling one of the people that are coming back that when I left my shift at the shuttle, I was getting my Scooby gear to go get some of that money because it's just sitting there.
It's just, it's accumulated. Well, I was talking to 2 people on the boat over from Ohio, and they're just here. And I told them about the 2 pennies, right? But I said, at this point, they actually take credit cards too, so you can try, because nobody has any pennies.
No.
Right? That's
well,
all.
In Nantucket, it's called a Nantucket 20. The bank gives out $100 bills at the ATM. So that's the other thing. The other good thing about driving the shuttle is you can tell people anything, as long as at the end of it you let them know that
you were making it up.
Yeah, I mean, like Nantucket is when you translate the Indian word Nantucket, it means bring money. So they find that out right away anyway. Because no matter where you go, it's expensive. Here, the mainland, anywhere, that's how life is.
Right. And I know that I don't want to run out. We don't want to run out of time. And we knew as we started the show, we said, "Oh, Bill Grieder, we'll run out of time." Can you give us your sense of kind of like where the Saltmarsh is going from here? I mean, I was following. I was sorry that I missed the town meeting where they actually voted regarding.
It gave us something to talk about because you weren't there.
I was really bummed to have missed that
said,
one.
Who isn't here and should be.
And there was, and then the election, and there was all the support for both of these major things, for the whole Island Home Initiative, and then for the Saltmarsh Initiative.
Well, the reason I brought them up together earlier is just because they are tied together, even though they're separate. And the island, in my now solicited opinion, needs both of them. There's nothing worse than Frank, Mary, Gramp, whatever, needing more help than they can get at home. And they need to have professional care, and you can't afford to do it at home. And without the island home, that means Frank, Mary, Granny, Graham are going to be on the Cape at the
Right.
very least. And it's an undaunting task when you talk to people that have been in that situation trying to get back and forth. Plus, it serves as an extra arm of the hospital. When people go and they get through surgery and they need to do rehab, they can have it on island instead of having to go to the Cape. It's an outdated facility. It needs to move. It needs to be replaced. But where it is, we do more studies than there are cobblestones on Main Street. But after all of those studies, it seems to come down to the view is wonderful, but to be able to have the top-notch health care, all of the attributes of the new facilities, it's going to have to be a new location.
Right.
And so the study right now is to move it on site in the same town property that the Sherburne Commons is on.
But that wonderful view, the notion of the salt marsh being at that wonderful view.
So that came out of this, right?
Because the salt marsh, well, like our island home, it's a natural anchor for a whole bunch of things that seniors, and I guess I always think of it in terms of if you're at the point where you've got medical related issues, that the island home is an important anchor around which a whole lot of community services and other things need to be kind of there. If you are less medically needy, but you really want to be part of this active social, which this an incredibly active senior community, the natural center for that is the salt marsh.
Right.
But as you say, right now, that's a little building. I remember when I first came down, oh my God, it was like 7 years ago, and I started doing seminars, and I remember talking to Laura at the Salt Marsh, and I said, well, so can we do it at this particular time? Oh no, that's the you don't want to interrupt the ladies' mahjong, right? You do not. And of course, it's in the same room. Everything is always in the same room as everything else because there isn't any other room. Yeah. So the notion, as you say, of having a population now that's 30% seniors, and you need to have you want to have a space where people can really,
right. One of the
together.
concerns was that if the island home was moved someplace else, that the town would sell that off or whatever. And so it was a valid concern, and so the town decided they needed to squash that concept because things were just going nowhere. And so the plan now, as I understand it, is the island home would be built in the new location. The building would have to be retroed. It doesn't require the same kind of retro as if it was going to be a nursing home or a home in general, because no one's going to be living there. But in some sort of shape or form, the salt marsh activities would move to that location that the island home is. So you save the view, and life goes on. Will it happen in my lifetime? Slim to none chance of that. Although I eat my vitamins.
You aren't that old.
My Social Security number is 1, but so
actually that's right. He's actually has a Social Security that doesn't have all of those numbers.
Right.
It's just like one.
Yeah. Right. So it would be wonderful if it is, but it takes so long now with bidding processes, and then go back for funding. By the time you get the funding, the cost of construction has gone up so much, and you got to go back for additional funds. So it's going to be a challenge, and we just hope that people keep with it and keep pushing it, and because the island needs both.
Right. And I'm really glad. It'll be wonderful that there is an NCEA, right, to be also helping with all of that, because I think just like with the island home, I think you can be. For either of these projects, you're going to be talking big taxpayer money. Yeah. And so, of course, if you're doing taxpayer money, you got to be, concerned about every dollar. And, which means a lot of the extras wouldn't be there if it's just taxpayer money. So the challenge really for the Friends of Our Island Home and for the NCEA would be to try to find folks to be trying to supplement that. So you end up with a great Our Island Home and a great salt marsh. You know,
So
it's
you
like
mentioned-
a real legacy.
You mentioned Friends of Our Island Home, so now I can embarrass your
Your wife's right. Your wife's.
Oh yeah, she's
an active member.
I hear more about what's going on there than
all
Red
under the
Sox.
chairmanship of a superb chairman.
That's exactly where I was going. Who you can't tell when you're looking at home, but she's actually got bike shoes on, and she's going to go.
Oh, you're not supposed to.
She's
going to
go wheeling in a few moments, which is a great
That's
program to get folks out from the island home in a contraption that's a wheelchair attached to the nose of a electric assist bike, and that in itself is a great program. And so there's just volunteerism really is all over the island, and we're very fortunate to have that.
Yes. So as somebody once told me about this place, you come for the beach, you stay for the community. The community is what's really special, you know. And I find myself having to kind of sometimes remind people here about how special that is. That's the special. What is special? You know, it isn't the money that's flying in and the money that's flying out. It's the community that's here. That's what's special.
I mean, we had
Thank you.
it showed up after the fire the past couple of weeks when the old Overlook veranda house went up in flames, and so there was an awful lot of press about how people came out of the woodwork and gave clothing and food and whatever. And so that's the sensational thing that happens. We hear about all of the goodwill and the way people help out. What you don't hear about is how it happens on a daily basis.
Right.
Some kid gets his bike stolen or whatever, and quietly somebody steps in, and all of a sudden the kid's got a new bike, or people find out. We have an awful lot of kids that don't get 3 squares a day, and when people find out about that, they step up and try to help out, clothing, and so there's just an awful lot of goodwill that you don't hear about.
So this was a wonderful guest, right? So thanks for this.
Yeah, we
Thanks
love
for
our
this.
seniors of
thank
the
you.
year.
Right, and as we inevitably, because I always love these, because we've been doing these now for several years. You've been having the seniors of the year come on, and you're like just blown away by what people do. So it's great what you do.
Well, and
It's
I'd just
great what
like
you
to
do.
add at this time that every year we elect seniors of the year. The Council on Aging puts out a notice, and people are invited to nominate seniors. And we love it when there are lots and lots and lots of nominations. Sometimes it takes a couple years before someone's nominated and to receive the award, but it's important that people fill out the form and give as much information about why their nominee should be Senior of the Year, because it makes the decision-making process by the council all that much easier.
All that much easier.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. And every time there are people like Billy it makes people want to become the Senior of the Year, right?
Some people
Some people.
some people don't think they're old enough.
That's true.
Oh yeah. Oh
I think
yeah.
you got to be 60 or older.
Well, it's a moving target, and
65.
yeah, I think it's 55 now.
No, 65.
65?
To be Senior of the Year, I think it's 65.
Oh,
The age is actually moving.
I made
up.
it by a month
Oh.
or 2.
Bill Grieder, thank you very much for
Thank
doing
you for
this.
having me.
We really, really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Allison, once again, thanks again for finding these great people. The other Senior of the Year, we're going to make an effort on one of our coming shows if we can to get her to come. She couldn't make it today, right?
We love Barbara Kodlak. She
Oh,
does
yeah,
it. She
she's
does
great.
a lot of stuff
A lot
too.
of stuff.
So
Yeah.
And so thank you. And so folks, thanks as usual. Thank you for watching. Thank you for forgiving me occasionally when I say the words MV here on these shows, because I realize I'm not supposed to. And we hope we'll look forward to seeing you on the next installment of Frank and Mary here on Nantucket. Thank you, Allison. Thank you, Bill.
thank you, Arthur.